Newcastle 2, Tottenham 2. Everyone was fearing the absolute worst yesterday. I was hearing score predictions of 5, 6s, even some people saying 7s that we were going to lose by last night. But yeah, it was a bit of a snatch and grab draw as it was explained, but Romero pulling us back twice, showing real leadership and captain's ability, like single-handedly clawing us back in that game twice. But
have you ever seen a centre-back just take the game like by the scruff of the neck like that before?
No.
Like, I'm gonna be the one to drag you back in the game. Like, I'm gonna be the one to go in the penalty area and get my head on it. I'm gonna be the one to step up. Usually it's an attacking player, but unfortunately, our attacking players don't seem to want to do it at the moment.
Yeah, I know. It's just madness. Absolute madness. But massive credit for Cuti Romero, because comes back out of the cold suspension, comes in and did what he did yesterday. And, you know, he got his yellow card as well, so he got that. But look, with Romero's performance, I don't even think he was unbelievable yesterday. It was just the goals that really stood him apart from the rest, and obviously he was our best player on the park because of it. But how did you feel about the game yesterday? Because, you know, Newcastle away, really hard place to go. You know, Spurs at the best of times struggle there, especially when Eddie Howe has been in the job and they've got all that money and they've been a really hard proposition. Not many teams are going to go there and take points off them this year. I think before this game they were on a 6-game winning streak at St James's Park, and we've gone there and taken a point. So do you feel like, well, this is what I feel like. I feel like if Spurs was showing more this season and we put in that carbon copy of a performance in that at Newcastle, I think Spurs fans would be looking at that game in a much more positive light than we have been.
So that again, if we've been
doing all right this season and actually like we've been seeing something to get behind, and we put in a carbon copy performance of that Newcastle game and we take a draw from it, I don't think people take too many problems with it.
Right. Yeah, you're probably right, because at the end of the day, it's always a good point going to St James's Park. It's always a tough place to go, and I don't think you can really complain about getting a 2-2 draw there, because we would have taken that before the game. Even, as I said, if you go to the start of the season, you say you're going to get a draw away in Newcastle, you probably say, yeah, that's a good result. You always take that, especially how Eddie Howe has them playing ever since he's taken over. They're so intense. You know, the crowd always get behind them. It's not an easy place to go whatsoever. However, I think there is a couple of caveats. First of all, I don't think Newcastle themselves were at their best. I think they were a bit there for the taking, to be honest. And even with that, they dominated us. They didn't play. Obviously the game changed a lot when Bruno came on. If he would have started the game, would have been different. I think if they would have played Joe Linton, Tonali, Bruno together rather than Lewis Miley in there, I think they would have been even more dominant. I think they obviously started with Barnes and Murphy instead of Elanga and Gordon. I think that quality as well probably was missing from their front forward play. So
Those two players have been better this season, though.
Elanga and I think Elanga and Gordon are better players.
Yeah, you can argue they're better players, but I think who's performed better this season?
Yeah, Gordon's not had the best of seasons.
He scored his first goal of the season last night, and from the penalty spot.
And Elanga, I guess Murphy and Barnes have probably been better this season, but I think they are better players. Anyway, my point being, I've seen Newcastle play a lot better than that. So I think we did catch them on a bit of an off day, to be honest. And even within that, they still dominated us. They still created chances, and they still should have won the game. We did show fight near the end of the game, and we obviously, to come back from going behind twice, was great, and I didn't see that coming. I thought once we went behind, it was going to be a big struggle for us to get back in that game. And we did have small periods during the game where we were in it and going forward a bit and not creating too many chances, but at least getting in the Newcastle half and getting near their box and swinging some crosses in and asking a few questions. But I think by and large it was still much of the same, and I think that is the frustration for a lot of Tottenham fans. And I don't think you can take the positives, because we drew, and that's great, and we got the point. But in terms of the level of performance, again, another first half we didn't have a shot on target. So that's 4 games in a row. The first half we haven't had a shot on target. So that is an extremely bad and worrying trade, albeit it was 0-0 going into half-time.
We didn't have a shot on target, but there were more openings for us in this game than we've seen in other first halves, particularly of late, like that Chelsea game, the Arsenal game, the Fulham game. You know, there were more openings. You had that Bergvall back heel. You had the transitional moment with Brennan Johnson. Like, at least we had more openings.
Yeah, there were little signs of counter-attacks, but still, was it enough to be overly positive about? Probably not. You still want to see more from your team, and I think in general as well, when we're in build-up, still really stodgy. Still basically one avenue to go direct to Kudus and see if we can hold the ball up. That's pretty much our plan at the moment, and it was pretty much 50-50 whether he could hold it up against Lewis Hall on the day. I thought it was a really good battle, actually. I think he was getting the better of him on some occasions, and some occasions Lewis Hall was actually nipping in ahead of him and winning the ball back. So I'm not saying Kudus did badly. I think he did quite well in the tussle, but that was our only plan, just to hoof it to him. And I think by and large, for large sections of that game, again, struggling to keep the ball, struggling to impose ourselves on the game, struggling to create chances. So I wouldn't say we played well. I wouldn't say it was like a great performance. I do think we did get a bit lucky to draw. But it's a good point. So I'm not unhappy with the point. But I don't come away with that game thinking, okay, that was a massive step in the right direction, or, okay, I'm really seeing what Frank wants us to do, or anything like that. It's just, maybe it was a bit better than the Arsenal and Chelsea game, so credit for that. But still not much to cling on to. Like, did that performance give me hope? Oh, we're going to be a lot better now against Brentford? Not necessarily.
No, but we've gone into one of the hardest away games of the season. That's the reality. That's what this is. And the question marks were raised of the starting lineup, particularly without Mickey van der Ven. And I don't think we were unbelievable. I don't think, I'm not taking a lot from this game being like, this is it and we're turning a corner now. But I was nowhere near as unhappy on the performance than I was in previous weeks. And a lot of teams are going to go to Newcastle and struggle this year, whether on good form, whether on bad form, whether they're a good team, a bad team. Like, this is just what happens at St James's Park. They're a very, very good home side. And yeah, I take your point that they weren't on top form yesterday, but regardless, they're always a really tough team to beat at St James's Park. So at some point, particularly with the way we've been, you just got to take what you're given, really, at a stadium like that. And we fought back and we got a point, and we created more chances than we have done against the likes, particularly in the first halves anyway, with the likes of Fulham's and Arsenal's and Chelsea's. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not looking at this performance. It all comes down to what we do against Brentford at the end of the day. And if we perform like that, like we did against Newcastle, against Brentford, then it won't be good enough. Because it's away to Newcastle, I'm all right with it, to be honest.
I'm fine with it as well, but in this specific game, that's fine. But it does. I think it does. It's a continuance of the general trend of our performances, in my opinion. At the end of the day, we didn't win. It's a good point. Don't get me wrong, but we didn't win. So it continues that run of form. I think it's 2 wins in 14 or 3 wins in 14 in all competitions. So we're definitely struggling to get results. Which is, look, I get that. You're going to go through tough periods when you're in a new job. I take that point. I'm not expecting it to all go swimmingly. So I'm not looking at the results necessarily, but it is a continuation of some really worrying form there. But it's just the performances are still not good, and I don't think it was great yesterday. I don't think I'm looking at performance like I'm not really proud of the performance, to be honest. As much as I'm maybe could be proud of the result, and it's a good result, but in terms of performance, I didn't come away with thinking I'm really proud of the team. Like, it was just poor again, to be honest.
When's the last time you've been proud of a performance at St James's Park?
Okay, but that doesn't matter. Doesn't mean I should be happy not to be proud of another one.
But like, for me, like,
I was more proud when we lost last season, to be honest. We played a lot better.
But we took more from the game this time, and that's like at Newcastle, you got to hang in the game sometimes. That's just the way it is, and that's what we did. And I thought Kevin Danso played really well. Romero, I thought he had a bit of a dodgy opening period of the game, but he grew into the game, and I thought our 2 centre backs were pretty good. There were some poor performances out there. Bentancur, I thought, really struggled out there. Sarr not really impacting games much at all at this moment in time, but Lucas Bergvall was a real shining light in the game. I felt as when I felt in the first 25 minutes like we was just struggling to get out our own half, like massively. And then there's something just changed in that first half with about, the last 15, 20 minutes or so. And Lucas Bergvall was the real driving force of that. And, he is just proving to Thomas Frank and to everyone time and time again that he's got to be starting. He seems like one of the only ones that are in that midfield that are able to drive the team forward. And what a player we have in our hands with Lucas Bergvall. And it's just a shame that the other midfielders are not really performing anywhere close to the standard and anywhere close to the level that Lucas Bergvall is showing at this moment in time.
Yeah, he seems to be taking responsibility, doesn't he? And we've seen that not just on the field but off the field, with some of the stuff. Well, I guess it's still on the field, but in terms of some of the stuff you can see on the pitch, when the whistle blows and he's talking to the players, he's the one telling Porro to clap the fans, he's orchestrating huddles in the middle of the pitch and having words with the players as well. So we've seen that those leadership skills and ability, maybe a future captain potentially, you could say, a kind of a skill set with him. And
if we can hold on to him.
If we can hold on to him, that's for sure. And on the pitch, you give him the ball and he's taking responsibility to drive, and I think he's doing some really good stuff with his passing ability. He set up a really good chance for Johnson, who should have done better with his moment. He obviously had that back heel which went over the bar. There was a really great moment as well, which he picked up the ball, I think, on the halfway line and just drove through the heart of that Newcastle midfield. He was the only one who had the confidence to do that throughout the whole game. Unfortunately, didn't really come to anything, but that was a really great moment from him. There was also another great moment in the second half where it looked like the ball was going out of play and everyone had given up on it. All the Tottenham players had given up on it, and he somehow managed to get the ball across the face of goal. And if one other Tottenham player just believed he could keep it in and gambled, could have had a tap in, and didn't happen. So I think he was definitely a shining light on the pitch. And yeah, I think he has to be starting every game. But yeah, I want to see him in a double pivot. I want to see him a bit deeper, because I think that's where he does his best work. I think that's where he looks his best and where he's got space in front of him to drive into. Because I feel like when he picks the ball up in the final third, I think he can be good, but I feel like he loves to drive forward and drive into that space. And I think there's no space when he's picking up the ball just outside the box. And I think it's very different to someone like Xavi, who likes to play in those tight spaces and likes to play little give and goes and find that little bit of magic on the edge of the box. I think Bergvall right now, I think he likes to drive into space and likes to use his physicality in that way. He's a great ball carrier, but we're not giving him that space to do it, so playing him always far forward. So I'd like to see him play a bit deeper, to be honest. And that's why I think last season he did his best work in a double pivot.
Completely agree. Look, we got to talk about that penalty, man, because the more and more I see it, the more angry I get, because it was such a pivotal moment in the game. Like, Spurs had just equalised, I think, 10 minutes before or whatever it was. And it looked like, we could have gone on and got another goal. We were actually, growing ourselves into the game more at that point. And just at the wrong time, the referee decides to drop a massive clanger. Like, it's not the first time I've seen decisions like that given at St James's Park, and it's probably not the last time. But I just don't get how he's given a penalty there. Like, it's ridiculous. If anything, it's a foul on Bentancur, in my opinion. You've got this beast of a guy in Dan Burns, 6-foot monster, kind of leaning all over him. They've both got their hands over each other, and kind of Bentancur goes down and Dan Burn goes down, and VAR instruct him to go look at the monitor. I'm just like saying, come on, just get on with the game, man. Like, it wasn't a penalty. It was a disgrace of a decision.
I was bemused. When the replay gets shown, what they're checking, and okay, they're going to play on. That's not a penalty. Like, it's 6 to 1, half a dozen on the other. You see that in every single game and every single corner. There's players tussling. There's players pulling each other. All this kind of stuff. So to penalise Bentancur specifically in that moment, I think is a disgrace. I can kind of half accept it if the referee had made the decision judged on what he saw on the pitch. Look, if the referee gives it, obviously he's not one of those ones that's going to get overturned the other way. I can understand that. I think there was some pulling from Bentancur. I accept that, and he did kind of bring him down. But as you say, Byrne had him in a headlock as well. Byrne had his arms on him. So to say Bentancur was the one who caused the main offence in that instance, rather than 6 to 1 and half dozen the other, is a disgrace. And I think it's even more of a disgrace that it was VAR who gave that decision when they had no right getting involved there. There was no need for them to tell the referee to go to the screen and check this. There's absolutely nothing. You could have just played on. No one would have said anything. No one would have complained. It wouldn't have been some big controversial moment where Newcastle feel aggrieved that they should have had a penalty. Everyone would have just accepted it and moved on. So this is what people have an issue with VAR, because they're getting involved there, yet they'll see an identical incident or they'll see another incident just like that, and they won't get involved and they'll let it slide. Like there's no need for VAR to stick their nose in that situation. They're sticking their nose in where it's not wanted. Like, mind your business sometimes, and they had no business getting involved there.
Yeah.
It's a disgrace, really, because they're not doing that for other situations. They're not giving 3 penalties a game. So why that instance they're deciding we're going to give a penalty and all the other ones they're ignoring? And there's going to be we're going to have. I'm telling you, we'll have situations this season where that happens and the referee doesn't look at it and the VAR ignores it. And we're going to get frustrated, and rightly so. But the right thing to do is to ignore it in that situation. There's nothing to suggest that the referee's made a clear and obvious error. The referee was probably right to say, look, 6 to 1, half dozen the other, play on. So I'm just really pissed off and annoyed. And especially, as you say, it was such a crucial time. We probably had a bit of momentum at that point. Getting the equaliser, had 10 minutes to go at that point. Could have we just made some subs, had some fresh energy. Could have gone on to maybe even snatch a winner if that happens, and it just took the wind out of our sails a bit. Obviously, we did go on to grab the equaliser, but I just felt like we were starting to gain some momentum, got that equaliser, and then that happens. It just throws everything out the window. And it's so frustrating.
And the worst thing about it is, like, they instruct the ref to go over to the monitor, right? What I know in pretty much 9 out of 10 of these situations, or even more, the ref always goes with. We
had one actually on the weekend where he rejected it.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen often, is what I'm saying.
Very
like, it's very rare that happens. Like, referees should have more about them to look at what's happening on the screen and to actually make an objective decision on what it is, and not just go with what VAR is saying every time. And if VAR is telling them he's made a mistake, or he thinks he could have made a mistake, you look at that and you make the right call. You can't look at that 5 times and say that's a penalty. I just don't get it.
I understand the argument to say it is a penalty, because I do think obviously he does drag him down. So when he looks at it, like when he looks at the replay and he sees Bentacle dragging him down, and he's got someone in his ear saying, you've made a mistake, it's a penalty, like, you've got to bring this back. It's hard to go against that. My point is VAR should never have sent him to the screen, but I agree with you. I think referees should, if they're very confident in their decision, they should stick to it. But unfortunately, they're not. These referees, they are beholden to what they're being told in their ear from some people in Stockley Park. And when they're being told, look, you've made a mistake, it's hard, and you're seeing something on the screen, if they reject that, and it's the wrong decision to reject it, it will make the situation even worse. So that's why they're always going to go with what the VAR is saying, and it's frustrating. And I would love to have seen them reject it, but I remember we had that actually. Remember it was during COVID. I think we scored a goal against Brighton. No, sorry, we conceded a goal against Brighton, and Højbjerg was fouled. And VAR sent him to the monitor to overturn it, and he rejected it, even though that was a clear foul. So it's happened before against us, but we never got one for us.
No, and it was never going to happen at St James's Park. I was just so bemused that he even was asked to go to the monitor. I just think it's nuts, crazy talk. But anyway,
it's a horrible precedent if that's what they're going to give as a penalty.
Yeah, look, everyone is coming out and calling this a disgrace. Thomas Frank even spoke about it in his post-match press conference, saying it wasn't a penalty. He said he spoke to some Newcastle people; they all thought it wasn't penalties. You saw no protests from Newcastle players as well, so I don't think they were too worried about the situation being a penalty or anything like that. You've seen Rio Ferdinand and various different pundits all come out, call this decision an absolute disgrace. So Spurs have been hard done by in here massively.
And we had it, what was it, also during COVID time on with that Eric Dyer handball. That was against Newcastle, a VAR decision. And they actually ended up changing the handball rule after that specific instance. So will this coin another rule change? Who
Probably.
knows?
It's only when Tottenham get hard done by, they start to change a rule afterwards.
Exactly. After we get screwed over, always.
Yeah. So that's that. But look, like I said, amazing fighting spirit from particularly Cuti Romero to swing the game, well, not in our favour, but to get us on level terms. And that overhead kick right at the death, I mean, he mishits it. It bobbles in slow motion all the way into the back of the net. And it's just like, what? I don't even know how that went in.
They asked him after the game, you know, what made you do that? And he says, you know, I train out of Messi, and you know, when you're training every day with Messi, you score these unbelievable goals. I'm like, okay, let's not go that far. Cuti, you shinned it. It bubbled into the net. Yes, it was an overhead kick, but we didn't exactly get great connection. But it was
the Messi effect, man. What are you talking about?
Just to try it, I guess. I don't know if you can call that goal Leo Messi quite. But it was look, he did very well to get any connection.
It was a defender's overhead kick.
Defender's overhead kick. And it's our third overhead kick we've scored this season.
So who else?
Richarlison scored one.
Richarlison, you go.
And then Paulinho scored one against Doncaster.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
And now Romero scored an overhead kick.
So out of those 3 overhead kicks, like two of them have come from such unlikely candidates, hasn't it?
Paulinho, Romero. Who would have thought? But to do that in the last minute as well, to grab a draw. And then he did the Bruno celebration in front of the Newcastle fans. Brilliant moment for him.
And he's going like that as well to the crowd, isn't he? 2-1, 2-1, 2-1.
Roy of the Rovers stuff from Cuti Romero, brilliant, and did his first Sky Sports interview in English as well. Had the confidence after that to, you know, he probably felt like he could take on the world. I'm going to speak English in the interview today. Fantastic. So happy for him. And look, he's been obviously saying we need to stick together. There's a lot of captains chat from him. With all the rumours obviously flying around about some discontent in the dressing room potentially, with some players growing frustrated with Frank and some other things. I guess Romero's trying to project a unified approach and unified squad. And as captain, obviously, he's got to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. What did you make out of the subs in the game from Thomas Frank? I thought they were a bit questionable because I thought 2 players, particularly Lucas Bergvall, was instrumental to us. In the second half as well. And Randall Kolo Muani, I thought, he just went on that mazy little run. It looked like he's a player that could really hurt Newcastle. And he takes them both off straight after Guimarães' goal, or like 5 minutes after.
Yeah, for me, Muani should definitely stay. I think he literally just proved just before he went off that he still had some energy in his legs. So don't get that. I think Bergvall, clearly, I think he's always taken him off at that point, and maybe he can't at the moment. Can't play 90 minutes. I don't know why. He has started the last few games, so maybe he feels like he's playing a lot and he needed to take him off. But I agree, he was also playing really well, so a bit frustrating there. But for me, Kolo, there was proof on the pitch. I guess it's hard because he'd already got the sub ready, and then he went on that amazing run while he stripped off. So maybe he felt like he was tiring, but he had just proven in that run he still had some legs in him. So to take him off at that moment was very frustrating because I think he still had the ability to hurt Newcastle and he still had something to give. And obviously Rishi came on and was just rolling around for the last 10 minutes. That was also frustrating. Obviously, I thought actually, he brought Tell on for Johnson as well. I thought Tell actually looked all right when he came on. I was quite content with how Tell was performing.
It was decent. He had that kind of one moment, didn't he, where he chased down a lost cause, where it looked like it was going out for a goal kick. He kept it on and then bought a corner.
I thought he was actually Tell, Xavi, the doggy. Once that dynamic was there, it looked quite good on the left-hand side, I felt, for the few minutes. I'm not saying did anything amazing, it just looked a bit cleaner, I felt, and there was a bit of link play between those 3. So I liked that, and obviously he took the corner for the equaliser. But I thought that was right. Who came on for Bergvall?
Bergvall, Simmons.
So Simmons came on. Yeah, he came on. He had a couple of nice touches, I guess.
There was that one ball into a doggy.
That was good.
That was like the highlight moment.
Yeah. Didn't get involved enough, I guess you would say. And Richarlison, I think the main one was taking Muani off at that point, I guess, for me.
I'm getting really frustrated with the way Thomas Frank is managing Xavi Simmons now, to be honest. It's so clear this guy needs to climatize to the Premier League. Thomas Frank keeps saying it, but that's 4 games in a row now, starting on the bench. Come on. Start him in some more games. How is he ever going to acclimatise if he's just sitting on the bench? It makes no sense to me.
Agreed. He needs the game time on the pitch. You need to trust him more. And it's not like we're creating loads of chances without him. We're not really doing better without him. So if we're going to be losing games or not winning games, you might as well give him that opportunity to adjust and acclimatise, rather than just wasting these minutes at the moment.
And you know what? Like, we've got Brentford, then we've got Slavia Prague, right? Let's say he's on the bench for Brentford, then starts Slavia Prague and has a really good game. It's like we learn nothing if he starts Slavia Prague and has a good game, because he started against Copenhagen and had a good game. Like, these Champions League games against like some of the worst teams in the Champions League, we know Javi can dominate in those games. We want to see him do it in the Premier League. That's where he needs to acclimatise, not against these Slavia Pragues and Copenhagens.
Agreed. And obviously we need him in those games anyway, but that's where we're not going to learn anything from those games.
And neither does he. He's not going to learn anything in these games. That's the main point, because we need him to really step up in the Premier League. You know, without Maddison, without Kulusevski, he's supposed to be the guy. Mm-hmm. And 4 games now on the bench. It's ridiculous, to be honest.
I really hope he gets a start against Brentford. But I kind of feel like he does want to play him and Bergvall together. Even though the only time we did was against Newcastle and it went all right.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why we haven't seen it again.
I think like he needs to start playing Javi and Bergvall together. Like Bergvall as well. It's not like he's a weak link in midfield and he can get easily bypassed. He's got bite in his challenge. You know, he can be a proper, really good box-to-box midfielder, Lucas Bergvall, in my opinion. So for me, we need to start 3 of them. Paulinho, I would start, you know, as the lone 6 with Bergvall and Javi, or maybe even Paulinho and Bergvall on a double pivot and Javi just straight up in the 10. But I think those 3 in midfield for me should start Brentford.
I agree. And I want to see us, look, we all know what we want to see. Take the game to them, create chances, be dominant, and we'll see what he does. And it's a game against his former club. It's a massive game for him, massive game for Thomas Frank. And if we win, all of a sudden you're building off the positives against St James's of the point, and all of a sudden you might start to see a direction and positivity. But another draw or a loss, and all of a sudden it's 3 wins in 15 now, and that draw at St James's goes into the negative pile rather than the positive pile. And it's how it goes, unfortunately, in football.
You know who else I'd like to see start against Brentford is Matisse Tell out on the left. I think he deserves a start, because like every time he comes on he seems to do decent. Obviously clawed us back in the game against Manchester United. I think that's the midfield I want to see. The front 3 I want to see is Tell on the left, Muani up top, and Kudus on the right. I think that could be a really good dynamic, to be honest.
100%. I think Tell, he scored that goal against United and we've barely seen him. He's got very little minutes since that game. And it was a nice cameo from him. So, yeah, I want to see him given another go. I want to see him getting a start. And on the left as well. We haven't seen him start in that position yet. But now Muani and Rishi are there. It's a chance. And I thought he looked bright when he came on yesterday.
Yeah. So look, a lot of things still to work on for Thomas Frank and Tottenham Hotspur. Good point to take from St James's Park, but still a lot of the same issues that we have seen in recent weeks still there. So it's all about the next game. You know, it's all very well and good getting a point at Newcastle, having a couple of chances, but it's all about the next game, and it's all about how you kind of react and how Thomas Frank, how he sets us up, and what kind of dynamics we can see on the pitch and how we can break Brentford down. That's what it all comes down to. So, like you said before, if we go and lose to Brentford or draw against Brentford, then this point at Newcastle means absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and we don't want to fall into the same trap we did against PSG, where we're all praising performance, saying, "Oh, great, we scored 3 goals and we look good," and then we go away at home to Fulham in the next game and looked absolute tripe. So, I think we've got to be very careful when overpraising this team right now. We've got to be skeptical, because that's what they've shown us, that we can't trust them yet to build on something, and that's reality. But I don't know if it buys him any time, this result, but I guess it is a good result, and it's probably something he did need to get a point out of it. If we would have lost, I think the pressure would have just been mounting. So the fact that we did get a point, I guess he can take the positives out of it. But him saying, he was very happy with the performance, I don't know if he should be, to be honest. I know I guess he said mentality and all this stuff, and it was a good point against Newcastle. So I think he probably would have taken a point before the game. So I understand that, but I don't know. I'm still watching it, and it's hard to watch.
It's true, but still, the performance that we did put in, I'm not saying it was great, but it was still better than we all expected.
Yeah, but if that's Just forget if it's Newcastle away. Like,
You can't forget it's Newcastle away because it was Newcastle
I'm just
away.
looking at that on a base performance. Was it a good performance? Should we be happy with that level of performance?
As Newcastle aways go, and you're playing a very hard team away from home, then it was okay. Like, it wasn't...
Okay, yeah, but he said he's very happy.
Yeah. I think maybe very happy in the context of we've just been absolutely battered in every game leading up to this, and we've held our own to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we went to the Etihad, right, and we won.
Yeah,
And
it seems like a long time ago
I understand that, but that's a level of performance you should be very happy with.
Yeah.
This performance, should we really be very happy with that?
Like, look, obviously, I think it all comes down to like the trajectory of the team, of the way the team's going, and we've just been on a downward spiral for weeks and weeks and weeks now, getting battered, conceding so many chances, not creating absolutely, jack shit basically in any game. And this was better than what we've seen. So, look, maybe very happy is a bit of an overstatement. And
what
maybe,
did we actually create in this game? We created a back heel from Bergvall. Yes, Romero scored when he went up front, and he scored an overhead kick. Mm-hmm. Apart from that, what chances did we actually have?
We didn't create too much, but in terms of XG, like our XG to Newcastle's XG, non-penalty XG, is actually not too different.
Okay, I mean, that's fine, but I think again those stats you got to take in context. But yeah, look, it was a closer game. Obviously, Newcastle, by the way, are below us. It's not like they are the level of Chelsea or Arsenal. Let's be honest.
Yeah, correct. But no matter what form they're in, you're in a game when you're going to St James's Park, and even with the bad form that they've shown this season, that's all pretty much been away from home. Let's be honest. Like at home, they've kept up their standards and they've been pretty good at home this season. So no matter what form they're in, going to St James's Park is always going to be an incredibly tough game and one of your toughest games of the season.
I understand that, but I'm not saying that we should be creating more chances than them. I understand we're probably going to create less, but we're still not creating much. I can't really sit here and say it was a massive improvement when we didn't still create much. We created a couple of moments, but...
Yeah, a couple of moments, and we got the draw, and you take it and you move on. Like, I don't think you're not going to be judged on Newcastle away, are you? You're going to be judged on the next game. So, look, like I said before, I don't think it was an incredible performance. I don't even think it was decent. Like, it was nothing more than that, and it was a step forward than what we've seen in the last couple of weeks, and I was quite content with it at the end of the game.
Content is a fair word. It worries me that he's saying he's very happy with it. I'm like, should you be very happy? Like, we weren't great. Like, we're still so bad on the ball, and you still pretty much have one plan, which is to get the ball to Kudus and hope.
Yeah, I just think he's very happy because we've gone to a very tough away ground. We've taken away a point. I just think that's why he's saying he's very happy.
I don't know. Yeah, fine. That's fine, but he's saying he's very happy with the performance. Again, we had this conversation about taking his word for it. Like, I remember, when was it? It was after Monaco. We conceded loads of shots, and he said, "Oh, you know what? I don't mind that we did it today because we're not doing it so often." And then I was like, "Well, we are." And then it happened loads and loads after. Yeah. Like, so now he's saying, "I'm very happy with this performance." So is he saying, "Is this us on a good day?" We've come to expect from us on a good day?
Well, in the context of the last month or so, then yeah, that was us on a good day.
So that's worrying.
Yeah, of course it's worrying. Look, we've been worried for weeks now. You've been worried for even longer than that with Thomas Frank at the helm. But like I said, a small step in the right direction yesterday. We've taken a point at a very hard away ground, and it's all on the next game. And if we fall flat on our faces again, like we've done pretty much every home game apart from the first home game of the season against Burnley, then that performance and that result means absolutely nothing, and it's a continuation of a worrying sign. But if we go and put in a decent performance and we win the game and we create chances and we're the dominant team and we're looking good, then you can say that Newcastle game could have been a step in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. If Romero doesn't shin an overhead kick and bobbles it into the net, is it still a step in the right direction? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if the penalty doesn't get given like it shouldn't have done, then that as well. So there's always give and take with everything.
Fair.
So the thing that gets me the most about the game yesterday was the bloody goals from the edge of the area. Another one yesterday from Bruno Guimaraes. Look, these goals are unbelievable quality. Like Eze's putting them in, Vitinha, like Bruno, like unbelievable quality to put them in. But we're allowing these players just way too much space on the edge of our box, and it just makes no sense. Like if it happens against Arsenal, you can like, all right, fine, it's one game. Happens again against PSG, you're like, what's going on?
The thing is that
here?
it happened 3 times against Arsenal and twice against PSG.
Yeah.
So it's happening multiple times a game.
Yeah. But it's just like he needs to look at that and rectify it, not just leave it as it is and being like, yeah, just continue to let teams have these so-called high XG or low XG chances, you know? It's like you've got to get your midfield players to be more aggressive and shut down players on the edge of the box. You can't let these players with such high quality have these chances because they're going to put them in the back of the net like we keep seeing.
See, I think that's part of his game plan, to be honest. So I don't think that's going away.
But his game plan's got to stop if this keeps happening a regular occurrence. Surely he's got to look at that and being like, all right, if the game plan is to not care about these low XG chances, well, surely moving forward he's got to care about them because they keep going. Model. But they keep going in the back of the net. Like if we keep conceding goals.
But I think his philosophy would, or his opinion would be, that the opposition's luck is going to run out. We're not going to be conceding goals throughout that kind of range every single week.
But we are.
We are at the moment. But I think he would argue over a season, it would even, yes, we're going through a period where every game it's happening. But if you even it out over a season, then it probably works for you more than it works against you. That's probably what he would argue. I would assume if you're talking to Thomas Frank now, I think that's probably what he would say. I think, for me, it's an overly cautious approach because he's basically getting all the midfielders into the box instead of anyone kind of forcing the issue and anyone coming out to the player and putting pressure on him. Bruno, I was watching the goal back. There was no one within 5 yards of him. He was completely free to pick his spot, and yes, it's a first-time finish and it's a good finish, but he was under no pressure, and a player of his quality can do that. So I would like to see us commit a few players to try and put some pressure so that they don't have such basically no pressure on the shot. So they have kind of a bit of time to place their effort. But I don't know if we will. I don't know if that is going to change because I think that's kind of part of Frank's game model is overload both boxes. Make sure you got loads of players in your box when you're swinging crosses in. You've got players to put it in, and make sure you're overloading our box. So first you're blocking out crosses, and you're restricting opposition to just shots outside the box. But I don't know. I feel like we could be doing more with that approach, to be honest.
Yeah, much more, and that's something he's got to seriously sit down, analyse, and look at because it's just not working at this moment in time. But anyway, that is our match review of the 2-2 draw at Newcastle yesterday. Let us know your thoughts of the game in the comments section below.